there, of course, could be some good news for those people living with debt at the moment. The Reserve Bank will make that decision on interest rates at 3 o'clock this afternoon, live here on ENCA, of course. As I mentioned, some economists suggesting it could be a cut of 25 basis points. That'll certainly help the credit card. So far, the bank has cut those interest rates by a whopping 275 basis points, to remind you, in response to COVID-19. Let's find out what economist Bonke Dumisa thinks is going to happen today. Mr. Dumisa, hello to you. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Where do you imagine the MPC going today?
Well, what is going to happen today is that the Monetary Policy Committee of the South African Reserve Bank is going to agree to have a repo rate cut of 25 basis points. And the reasons for that, as you've already alluded to it, is that we don't have any inflationary pressures at all. When you look at the CPI figure, the Consumer Price Index, in May it was 2.1%, coming from 3% in April. That removes any doubt that we may have inflationary pressures. And with the country in this economic doldrums because of COVID-19, the Reserve Bank has been trying to buy some bonds just to put some liquidity into the market. And then cutting the repo rate may add further to that, so that we've got more disposable incomes in the market, because South Africa is a consumption-led economy, just to make sure then that the wheels of the economy move whilst we are busy fighting and dealing with these COVID-19 issues. Of course, there were other economic pressures that we had even before the coming into being of the COVID-19. So I am confident then that we will see the repo rate coming down from 3.75% to 3.5%.
There are many people, Mr. Dumisa, who are going to ask the question, if we're continuing to cut the interest rate, which many consumers are, of course, going to welcome, especially people with credit cards and home loans, this money is going to have to come back into the market at some point. The MPC can't just keep cutting prices and keep cutting interest rates. We need to get that money back somehow, somewhere. How does that all work?
You have already alluded to the fact then that this may be the end for now of this interest rate cut cycle for the Reserve Bank, because it will mean if ever they cut it by 25 basis points today, then they would have done a full 300 basis points from the beginning of the year. And when we are at 3.5, really, there's not much that we can do beyond that for the time being. So that money will have to come back, but there is no money in the market as it is now because of COVID-19, which is taking all the resources, and the post-junk status era, where some of the money left the country, and the national lockdown, which closed down all the businesses, and we are battling. I mean, when you look at the retail sales figures for April, they are really worrying. You wonder whether the country is still in existence. So we need something to stimulate the economy, and we cannot afford those trillions which have been used by the European Union and the United States of America.
Let's not separate what happens on our markets, Mr. Dumisa, from what's happening globally. We know, of course, that there has been additional global COVID-19 stimulus packages, ranging from the smallest of millions all the way to the biggest of trillions of stimulus packages around the world. This, I imagine, is helping to strengthen the rand. I see today the rand still on a solid footing as we head up to this MPC meeting.
Well, the rand, fortunately for us, when we've looked at the rand in the past few days, it is actually far better than it was before Moody's downgraded us on the 27th of March. So the rand is on its own. But when you compare the rand this morning compared to yesterday, you'll find then that it did give up on some of the gains it made yesterday, and primarily because it is more the global issues which are affecting the rand inside the country and everything else. So we will always be at the mercy of, if America, as it is happening, is having issues with China, then that backfires on us, because the emerging market currencies, the EMCs, take a flag and they go back, as we saw this morning. So America is having issues with China, and we take the blow. But it is more, this environment is more positive today than it actually was before the national lockdown came into being on the 27th of March, 2020.
I appreciate your time. I know what you're going to do at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Mr. Bonke Dumisa, watching the MPC announcement here on ENCA. Sir, always a pleasure speaking to you. Lovely insight.